What is up, guys? It is Tony here, and today we are unboxing this Mac Mini real quick before we get in the M1 chip computer I bought. Oddly enough, this is not the M1 Mac Mini, because the M1 Mac Mini I ordered was getting delayed. It wasn't even being shipped, and I called Apple and they didn't know what was going on. So I said cancel it. I have the MacBook Air coming in. That'll be enough to test. I wanted to test these things as soon as possible to have one of the earlier videos on it. So what I did is I ordered a they were offering refurbished 6-core i5 Mac Minis. And I figured that this would be a really good thing to compare to the M1 architecture. This has an active cooling fan. This has 6 cores of Intel power. Okay. It has Intel Iris integrated graphics, which could run like 2 4K displays. So this thing, ooh, it's loud. This thing should be a really good comparison. Wow, I like the color. Really, this is basically what people dub the Mac Mini Pro. This would be a really good comparison to the M1 chip. Because out of the box, this is actually it is. It's $750, I think. So it's a little bit more than the Mac Mini M1, but it's close. It's basically a competitor to the M1 Mac Mini. So let's see how bad the M1 MacBook Air trounces this thing. Because I have a feeling even the MacBook Air with the 7-core chip and the 7-core GPU and all of the thermal limitations is gonna beat this thing, even though it's a 6-core Intel chip. And I think it was 1,000 when this was new. So there you go, just a quick unboxing. So my Lumix G7 just died. I need spare batteries, but here they are. Basically, these are brothers. This being the older brother from 2012, with the 2018 on top. You can see the I/O has changed a bit. Now we have 4 Thunderbolt ports as opposed to 2. Actually, I think it's just 1 on the 2012, and it's a Thunderbolt 2. But now we only have 2 standard old school USBs here as opposed to 4 on this model. So bit of an upgrade, bit of a downgrade, depending on how you look at it. Trade-offs are fun. But let's go ahead and get this thing booted. All right, I think we got everything plugged in. It's literally 2 plugs, power and display. Power's over here. Oh, I didn't plug it in. Rookie mistake. All right. Take 4. Wow. We might have got a dead refurb unit? Is that possible? Okay. It suddenly just popped up on screen and it's telling us to connect our mouse. So let's give that a shot. Both are on. So this thing is dead silent, by the way. Dead silent. So that's great. That's why I thought it was dead, because it's dead silent. All right, so we finally got the Mac Mini Pro booted up here. And you can see here it has a 6-core Intel i5. And it has 8 gigabytes of RAM, DDR4 2667 megahertz. And it's got that Iris 630 with 1.5 gigs of RAM. So one quick note that is very important. My 2012 Mac Mini here that I'm going to be returning, this thing with 8 gigs of RAM had issues running this screensaver. So this new Catalina screensaver, really beautiful, was stuttering a lot when it was running 2 1080p displays. And you might say, oh, that's all graphics. But here's the thing. This one's not stuttering And this one stopped stuttering when I put 16 gigabytes of RAM in it. So this computer, I believe, is actually performing better with 8 gigs of RAM because of the high performance 2667 megahertz DDR4. Meaning, if you're used to 16 gigs of DDR3, chances are 8 gigs of DDR4 might cover it for you. And that being said, the M1 with 8 gigs might be okay. A lot of people make points about audio production, how you're going to need a ton of RAM or multitasking. The truth is, with DDR3, 16 gigs was important. It seems like newer memory, 8 gigs is fine. And with the unified system on a chip, it may even be better. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly run a Geekbench 5 benchmark for this thing. So just a quick look here. It is an 8th gen i5. So this isn't the latest gen of Intel processors at all. But the truth is, these 8th gens aren't too far off from the 10th and the 11th gens in terms of benchmarks. So it is still a pretty fair comparison, especially since it was what they were offering previously before the M1 option was released. So we're going to go ahead and run this benchmark. All right, so it's got a 4700 multi-core score in Geekbench 5, which compared to the M1 benchmarks we've seen is about 2500, 2800 lower. So yeah, the processor is a little bit slower, but you are able to expand your RAM to 64 gigabytes, and you're also able to run an eGPU, which enables you to expand GPU performance to the levels of a Mac Pro. That being said, you can't do that with the M1. So if you are looking for graphical performance in your Mac, beyond just, good rendering in Final Cut, because Final Cut will be able to render just fine with the M1, but if you are looking for graphical performance outside of creative apps, so we're talking video games, or let's say you're running Intel apps, you're going to want to go with this machine, or with an Intel iMac or Mac Pro, depending on what your budget is and what you need in terms of expandability. And because of course this thing can be opened and upgraded, but it is not really designed for it. So it's difficult, and there's not a lot you can upgrade. So it is kind of the more prosumer level option, which would be good for me, but I want to see what the M1 can do stacked up to it. So this is probably what I'm going to use to replace this this damaged Mac Mini. Don't know if you guys saw the recent video, but yeah, this thing has a little bit of damage on the inside, and by a little bit I mean pretty bad. So it's gonna have to be returned. I think I'm gonna be dropping that off today. So there you go. Thank you for watching. See you guys in the upcoming MacBook Air video, and then soon to be comparison to this Mac Mini Pro.